What's up, everybody? Welcome to the How to Lead podcast, conversation designed to help you develop yourself and those around you. I'm Adam, joined by Clay. Clay, I like today's conversation as we talk about productivity, getting stuff done. And very specifically, I think you're pretty humble about this. You on this podcast, longtime listeners will know, you kind of make some fun of yourself on some lack of focus sometimes and, little things like that. But you're pretty productive. Like, you know how to get some stuff done. You stay focused on the right things. I do admire that about you. I don't think you give yourself enough credit for that, because anybody that's been doing what you've been doing for a couple years on your own, you got to be able to get some stuff done. Would you agree that you maybe don't give yourself enough credit for that? I know that's a weird question to ask, but what are your thoughts on that?
I know I still have a hard time giving myself any credit. Right before we hit record, you go, all right, well, I'm going to let you take the lead on this one. And I was like, that's kind of hilarious, me taking the lead on a conversation about productivity. I will say this, though. I have come a long way.
Yes.
I do feel like my wiring is
So
not
good.
one for system, for routine, for enhancing and squeezing all I can out of the week. That is not I'm squeezing all the fun out of the week, but I'm not squeezing all the production out
Well,
of the
that
week.
makes it I'm so much more intrigued now because, talk to the CPA types all the time. It's like, oh, we're boring about it all. So
You were born productive.
That's right. Yeah. So I journal in Excel. It's just what I do. And so I'm kidding with that. But anyway, I love it because you're the fellow journeyman right now. You don't feel like you're the expert. You've learned some things. I think you got a story to share with all of this. So I'm really excited as you are going to talk about, like, how do you make the most of your week, right? Because that's a big deal. So you got three things. Let's just set them all up, and then I wanna hear more on each of these.
My father-in-law was number one in his class in high school, number one in his class in college, number one in his class in med school.
Okay.
So he's an overachiever, very
Yes.
good at what he does. And the first 5-10 years of our marriage, every time I'm around him, just about, he's asking me if I've ever been prescribed ADHD medication. He's like, because you seem like a great candidate for it. So
That is so good.
yeah, this is real. Yeah, I'm going to give here's three ways that I've learned to make the most out of the week. I'll give them to you up front, and then we'll break each one down. Number one, start with clarity. You got to start with clarity. Number two, design around your energy and not just around your time.
That's
and number
awesome.
three, reflect and recalibrate.
I like that. Well, a couple words in here. First of all, I love the design around your energy, so I can't wait to talk about that because I think there's some great unlocks there. I'm not surprised to hear you say you start with clarity, because that's, again, one of your strengths is the ability to communicate with clarity, find clarity, fight through the noise. It's incredibly important nowadays. So literally, what does that look like for you to start with clarity? Like, what is your main goal with all that? When do you do it? Get into the details there.
Well, clarity creates focus. We all know that, right? The essence of focus is you're zooming in on, you think about like the camera focusing, you're zooming in on that thing that is most important. That's what clarity does. And you can't maximize your week if you don't know what matters most. So you have to start there. And so, I remember where I was. I was probably 27 years old. I was a student pastor at a local church. I had a team of probably 5 people that I managed. I had a budget of probably, I don't even remember how much, but it was probably $1 million budget, I would guess. And half of that was taken up by camp. So it really wasn't as large as that might even sound. And I remember being at Waffle House with a friend named Casey Graham, who's actually, he's been on this podcast.
Been a guest, friend of the podcast.
Yeah. And I was just telling him about my, lack of production, and I feel scattered, not being able to stay on track and too much going on. And he was like, well, when do you write down everything that needs to be done? And I was like, start from the top, say more, just from the beginning, explain it in slower terms, right? I did not even understand what he meant by that.
Yes. That's so
And I
good.
remember distinctly him saying, like, you don't sit down at the beginning of the week and write down what needs to get done this week. I'm like, shocking how much I've accomplished, isn't it?
Yeah. I even graduated from college.
That's right. I just finished a doctoral dissertation,
Yes.
and I have not written down what needs to be done. So yes, for me, it's usually on Sunday or on Monday, but it's as simple as that. It's as simple as writing down what needs to be done, right? The most successful people in the world, they have the one thing they all have in common. They write down what needs to be done and they do it.
That's
every
right.
day.
So good.
So you got to start there, right? That you write down at the beginning of the week what is most important. Now, the challenge is some of the things that need to get done are short term and some of them are long term. So having the two different places to park those, right?
Yep.
Here's when it's going to get done, and when it's and if this is something, hey, I know I have to get in this week, or if this is something it might not, it's going to take a couple weeks or take a couple months, giving yourself the quarter, but keeping that running list. I mean, I have used a lot of the different productivity journals. The Michael Hyatt one is very helpful, but now I've got my own system of doing using a journal. But I really like the holding a journal, holding something that I'm, every week I'm looking at, every day I'm taking notes in it. Using a simple tool. I have used this tool often, but that Eisenhower matrix, right?
Yeah, it's a good one.
Here's what's urgent. Here's what's most important. This is what's not urgent, but still very important. This is what's very, not urgent nor important, right? Making sure you put things in one of those boxes. That simple practice of having, whether it's, here's the 3 goals that I've got to have this week that align with some broader life goals or work objectives. Here's what I've got to get done today. Here's what I got to get done this week. Here's what I've got to get done this month. And here's what I've got to get done by the end of the quarter. That simple practice of clarity has been a game changer for me.
Yeah.
So I know that is very simple, but
it is. And I love what you're saying there, because it's so practical, just the idea of writing it down. And you're exactly right. There's something about that, just going through that process and parking it all in one spot, writing it all down, taking those big things. Because, like you and I will do things that maybe this week you closed a deal where you're going to be delivering a keynote, and it's going to be a new message, and it's going to happen in March. Well, you don't put that on your to-do list in March. You probably put parts of that on your to-do list a little bit in February, right? So you're like, oh, I need to just create an outline. So you're taking that big thing and you're breaking it down into smaller things, and then putting those smaller things on the weekly list, so you feel like you're making some progress towards all of it. And so all that just comes down to writing it all down. I think that's a huge way to do that. And I love what you said. Say that statement again about clarity creating focus, because I think that's really important.
Yeah, clarity creates focus, and you cannot maximize your week if you don't know what matters most. So you have to start with what matters most, and that's right. That's what clarity it whether you want it to or not, it does it. It embedded in the idea of clarity is this focus on what matters most.
That's really good. Okay, so you start there, Sunday, Monday, write it all down, maybe write some urgent, not urgent, important, all that kind of stuff. And it just allows you to make sure everything's lining up towards some of these other long-term goals. All right, segment 2, or this idea, the second idea here, would be design your energy, not just your time. I think I know where you're going here with this, but what do you mean when you say that? Because I think, again, this is simple yet profound.
Well, managing your energy is more important than managing your time, right? Because you have a limited amount of time, but you have a limited amount of energy as well. And your energy is not chronological. Your energy doesn't come and go as the day comes and goes. There is this concept of energy peaks and energy valleys, right? Being a morning person versus being a night owl. This was pretty, for me, it aligned with having children, and it aligned with, for me, signing my first book deal, that I knew I am not going to get this done if I wait till the end of the day, or if even I wait till we're right up against the deadline. That I knew I am at my best if I can wake up as early as my body will allow me to wake up. So at that time, it would have been, on a good day, I was getting up in the 4s, but I was not sleeping past 6 for sure. And then just immediately getting after it. So I know a lot of people like doing some kind of physical exercise in the morning, but I had to find other times to put that in, because I knew my energy, my mental energy, is best right at the crack of dawn.
Yeah.
I mean, before anything else is going on. And so I don't want to be standing on a treadmill, or not standing. Well, standing on a treadmill would have been probably pretty similar to what I would have done.
Yeah.
Or on an elliptical when my energy is best. I don't want to be sitting. I'll tell you the other thing that I was guilty of, because I was a pastor for so long. It was just very common for me to set up meetings with people. I mean, it's just constant people, because there's there's coworkers, there's people in the church, there's people outside the church, people in the community. So
and
many
that's the
meetings to
work.
have.
That's the work of many pastors, right?
It's doing the work, right?
Yeah.
And so I could have booked breakfast and lunch a month out, because there were just so many people that I feel like I needed to meet with and wanted to meet with. And so when I decided I need to stop booking breakfast, because that was so harmful to my day. For one, because you load up on pancakes in the morning, it's hard to get anything done after that.
Just can't get it going.
That's right. But also, that was essential time that I knew I would be able to connect with somebody. I can connect with someone pretty much any time of the day, because people do give me energy. And so I could have had a 4:00 coffee meeting when my energy is low and found some energy to connect with someone.
Yeah.
But to take the 7 a.m. slot when I would be best at writing or getting something done, doing some of the more difficult mental work, I had to reserve that for what was most important. And so learning how to design your calendar, planning your high energy tasks for your peak times, and reserve your low energy periods for the more simple things that might come a little easier for you. I think that's essential to design your schedule around your energy and not just your time.
It's so good. Yeah. I mean, that was such an unlock to look at those natural rhythms for the day, because they're true. I mean, not only is managing your energy more important than managing your time, and the reason I think that is because we typically have less energy than we do time. And so a lot of times we can be depleted of all of our energy, but we still have plenty of time left in the day. And so that's the finite resource that we've got to try to figure out. I was just having this conversation with a guy that I'm coaching on Friday, and it was, hey, I feel like all of my best hours when I need to do some deep thinking, they're getting taken up with meetings or interruptions and all this kind of stuff. And so you mentioned Michael Hyatt. I remember in his book, he talked about mapping out your ideal week. So knowing the rhythms of your natural energy rhythms, then what would be an ideal week? When is it best to do the things that you need to get done? And we also had to, and so he's doing that. That's his homework this week before we get together again. And we can map out this ideal week. And we know for a lot of leaders, like, you're not going to get to execute this for at least another 6 weeks because your calendar's full. So you can't just go and cancel everything over the next 6 weeks so you can have your ideal. This is when you finally have some white space on your calendar. We need to start blocking out some time, like you did, to go no more breakfast. That didn't just happen. You didn't make that decision on a Friday and then on Monday it happened. You probably had to fulfill your commitments for a few weeks, but going forward, to make the best use of that morning, that was a really good idea to do that. So I love that.
Let me just say to those, I know we have some young leaders that are listening to this. You hear Adam talk about map out your ideal week, and you think, well, I don't know, right? I mean, it's kind of the way I felt when we first, my wife and I we had been married a year. We were 26 years old, right? She was 23, I was 26, and we go and meet with this realtor about looking at houses. We were living in an apartment, and they said, well, what are you looking for in a house? And we're like, kitchen,
dishwasher.
Right. Like what are the options? I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's might be how you feel. I would just say, keep that in maybe the background of your mind, and over the next year, start paying attention to some of these. It's going to take some investigation, some auditing before you're able to map out what might be the best time for your energy.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so start with clarity. Then design your energy, not just your time. And then what you said there, I mean, you're completely coming over to my side, Clay. You just said audit. Okay, so doing some auditing. So who is this guy? I don't even know who you are anymore. But then what you got to do is you got to reflect and recalibrate, right? So that would be this third idea. So talk about that.
Well, reflection ensures that you're learning and adapting each week, right? And so the idea that, this is the set schedule, this is the way it's going to be from here until the end of time, obviously that's just not going to happen. I think we should always be reflecting and recalibrating. And it's one of the things about getting old that I am not enjoying is how I do get set in my ways. And if not for reflecting and recalibrating, I wouldn't change. And so I hope that we never stop doing that. But I would just say any kind of weekly reflection, right? I had a hard time doing it at the end of the day because I was usually rushed to get out of there. And so sometimes for me, though, it was on Monday morning looking back over last week. Or sometimes, because Sunday was a work day for you and I in the work that we were in. Sometimes it was Sunday. There was time during the day on Sunday to be able to reflect and recalibrate. But picking time during the week where you're able to look back and go, hey, what worked? What didn't work? Where can I improve? Leveraging the power of gratitude, celebrating small wins. Those are just some simple ways to constantly be reflecting and recalibrating. But I really believe, Adam, if you'll start with clarity, design around your energy and not just your time, and then reflect and recalibrate, you can make the most out of every week.
You really can. Yeah, it is. It's just that simple. And listen, you may change it 4 times throughout the year based on some of those more long-term goals. So like the season you were in writing a book, you really needed to protect those mornings. Then the book is out, and now you're out there publicizing the book. Then the mornings now are time to meet with people, right? And that can change. What's most important now based in this season. And so everybody's got some sort of cycles to their work life. And so all my CPA friends that are listening right now, they're in the middle of their busy season or getting ready to start their busy season. So their mornings are going to look different than they will over the summer. That's totally fine. That's what reflecting and recalibrating does. We're constantly looking to try to get the most out of all of it. So, hey, Clay, I'm proud of you, man. Like you really are. You're coming a long way with all this. That was awesome.
I've shared this before. One of the greatest moments for me in my working life was somebody new came onto our staff. And at the time, there would have been I was probably managing about maybe 90 people on this one particular location. So this is a person that was a couple layers away that I didn't really know that well. And he had a question about something that he knew was going to be important to me. And he said, would you like for me to just email you this? Because I've heard you're really good over email. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is
rebranding campaign is complete. That is so good.
But it was the only way that would have happened is because of what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
I gotta have clarity. I've got to design around my energy and not around time. And then I've got to reflect and recalibrate. And that, for me, it got me to the point where someone said, I hear you're really on top of your inbox.
Email
that is
so
what
good.
A compliment. I want a t-shirt that says this guy's on top of, who's got 2 thumbs and on top of his email.
This guy. Well, all right, here's what you do. With so many of these things, we throw a bunch of ideas at you, not that you go and implement all of them. It's pick one, right? So just pick one of these strategies to try to implement this week. For you, it may be the Sunday night thing. Maybe the Monday morning thing. For some of you, maybe just getting a pen and paper and just writing it down. For a lot of us, it's going to be rethinking the seasons that we're in and the time of day and energy. And for some of you, maybe just like, hey, I just need to go back. I'm kind of in a rut. I need to rethink it all. But pick one of those strategies, and that'll go a long way with helping you make the most of your week. So, Clay, how would you wrap it up?
Well, if you're a team leader, here's a way to leverage this conversation. I would start a meeting coming up in the next month or so, discuss this topic, maybe send them this podcast ahead of time, and then ask them just one simple question. Ask your team a question like this. What's one small change that you've been wanting to make to take better control of your week?
That's good.
I would just throw that out there and see what happens. I bet it will turn into a really helpful and profitable discussion. I mean, imagine that. If you're a team leader and your team all of a sudden becomes more productive, everybody wins when that happens, right?
That's right. And then take all those answers and send them to Clay on email because he's really good with his email and he'll respond to all of them. It'll be amazing. So, all right, Clay, as always, great to be with you. Good stuff. Well, that's all we got for today's episode of the How to Lead podcast. You can always reach out to us via email. We can be reached at info@howtolead.work. That's info@howtolead.work. Every episode is mixed and edited by the team over at Sound of a Rose. You can learn more about them at soundofarose.com. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you again next time.